Advice for writing my first book.
Advice writing your first book. Fiction, nonfiction.
I'm currently outlining #unbreakable. So my story. So I'm planning to use lessons and stories I've learned over the last decade since getting sick and rebuilding my life.
Okay, I like it. Posh, in writing the book, I want you to start to think about the lessons in there that are going to help people, and start coaching and helping people to see how they land. Before you actually put it into a book and finish the book, start actually coaching people. So you know how to tell the story in a way that's going to touch them. Because that's your goal. You want people to read the story and, yes, be inspired, but then also go take some kind of action in their life. So the more you actually practice telling it in front of somebody, the greater chances like a book is really just you telling the story. So the more you practice telling the story, the better off the book will land with people. Like Built to Serve was because I've helped so many people through the process. Yeah, and the other one's about the family business. So let's see what she says.
Okay. Oh my gosh, everything lately has been pushing me towards coaching. I don't feel ready for that. Oh, you're talking to the right guy. You don't feel ready for something? All right.
Well, what does #unbreakable mean, right? #unbreakable does not only do what we're ready for. Even if the long-term ambition isn't to be a coach, that's fine. But you need to see how the story lands with people. You need to practice telling the story in a coaching environment, see how people react to it. And then your book, so it's not just a memoir, your book should be a handbook. It should be a practical guide. And it becomes that because you've helped enough people through the same journey.
Oh my gosh, everything lately has been pushing me towards coaching. I don't feel ready for that.
Uh-oh.
No, we're going to talk about how you get ready.
All right, there you go.
And I'm giving you a little preview, Posh. You get ready by doing it.
Uh-oh.
You're going to become ready. Just the act of doing it, and that means doing it badly, that's going to get you ready.
Getting ready to get ready.
Posh knows, she says, so I guess I'm going to take a stab at this. Where do I start? We can explore that. But since you're here right now, let's ask Evan. Yeah, where do I start?
I would start by... Okay, so would you rather do it one-on-one, or would you rather do it in a group setting? Like, that's where we can start next. Like, do you want to be speaking on a stage, and even a virtual stage where it's like presentation style to a couple people? Not giant audiences, not like 1,000 people.
You make it sound so easy, LOL. So I feel like I should write at least some notes for the stories down so I don't freeze, LOL.
To just make it, it's just going to be a conversation. Don't even have the stress of this has to be a life-changing coaching session, right? It's a conversation. Make it under the, I want you to tell your unbreaking story, and I'd love to help you on your journey if there's anything I can contribute. That's the pitch. And then you talk, you hear what their story is, and then you're just looking for one of your stories that can help. But here's the thing. You don't have to write down what your stories are yet. Don't worry about that. What you do want to write down is when you give your response, to say, wow, thank you so much for sharing. That reminds me of when I went to Disney World and this happened. And then you see the reaction. Like, does it like, wow, that's a really cool story, Bonnie. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, ooh, okay, they like that. Good. And then you write down Disney story. That goes in the book, right? All the stories that land, that resonate, that inspire people, that's what you turn into the book.
So I have quite a bit of content up on me sharing my story on podcasts, etc., and also myself being coached.
Okay.
Are the comments of those good indicators as well?
That's a good idea. That's a good start. That's definitely a good start. Like you telling your story, comments, but also how the, like I would watch back the interviews that you've done and then see the reaction. Where did they, you're looking for the moments where you tell a story and then they react to it and say, whoa, really? Tell me more. Versus you tell a story and it just kind of dies. Like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so tell me about, and they shift the topic, right? Because what you don't want people to do is shift the book. Because that will happen. People will, if they don't like what's going on, they're going to shift the book. Right? So that's your job, is to tell interesting stories. So watching back the video I would just look for the stories that you told that got them to ask follow-up questions. Like that could be a big idea for you. Comments too, helpful. Like, oh, when she said this, it was really good. But specifically the interviewer.
Posh Notion says, okay, awesome. I could do that too. Thank you. I tend to rewatch to see if there's parts I should leave out next time, using what you suggested.
Yep.
And also to improve my presence going forward.
So here's another one, Bonnie. Go back and watch the show with Dave, where you won, right? How long were you actually in the room versus how much did they actually show on the show? Like how many minutes were you in the room pitching your idea, and how much of your segment actually made it to air?
Posh says, actually all of it. I recorded the original on my phone as I was recording with them. Okay, so she has all of it.
No, sorry. Okay, that wasn't my question. So it's awesome that you have all of it. What I wanted to know is how much did they edit out? So if you were there for 90 minutes talking to them, they edited out a whole bunch that made it into the final episode. Maybe there was 15 minutes or something, right? So how long was the footage you have that you were there for? And then how many minutes was the actual show?
Okay. So they kept all of it, she's saying.
They kept all of it?
That's what she said.
Oh, that's really weird for a TV show.
Well,
okay.
So are you familiar with the concept of the hero's edit?
No.
So when you are so it's typically like in reality TV type shows, but there is a specific bend that the final edit will have that will give you insight into who the actual winner is.
Okay, but still, all reality shows film a whole bunch, and then they only keep a tiny set. I've never heard of a TV show.
Here we go. So she's saying this is more clarity for you guys. You only pitch 2 minutes and they give you feedback.
Oh, you weren't on for that long.
Okay.
But usually, like, if you go to Shark Tank or something, you're there for 60 to 90 minutes, and they cut it down to like a 5-minute spot. Maybe the entrepreneur wasn't that far ahead. Well, anyway, it's still worth watching back to see what parts, especially if you can see their reaction. What parts did they react to? Because that's part of the story that they like. I mean, we already have feedback from Dave on why they picked you, to give you confidence when you're going into future pitches that you know what to focus on. But the specifics in the story, to know like what story did you tell, especially if you can see their reaction, like what story did you tell that then they really connected with. That's the story for the book. Like whatever story you told on that stage that got them to say yes, that's a great story for the book.
Okay, so she said, I got a ton of positive feedback, and I'm the only one that didn't get negative feedback on that episode, and I made David cry twice.
So okay, that's perfect. What did you say to get David to cry? It was some story. What was the story that made David cry?
Posh says, yes, his body language and face said it all for sure. And then Gabriella says, okay, do you want to comment on that?
Bonnie?
Yeah, she says, yes, his body language and face said it all for sure.
Right. Yes, I mean, and that's great because Dave was very expressive and he wouldn't just cry for no reason. But what was the story you told him? What was the story, the specific story that made Dave cry? What was the moment?
Yes, he cried when I told him the summary of all I I've beaten in the beginning of my pitch.
Perfect. So that's the intro of your book.
That's the intro of your book. Gabriella says, okay,
Like if you can make Dave Meltzer cry from you talking for 30 seconds or 45 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever, other people will cry too. So almost word for word, whatever you said is the intro for your book.
Maybe some other people don't, but when she mentioned about, yes, his body language and face said it for sure, then she wrote later, yes, he cried when I told him the summary of all I've been through in the beginning of my pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Then she said, so for her illness, cancer, and foreclosures, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's about in the first 15 seconds in.
Yeah,
so,
if you made Dave Meltzer cry 15 seconds in, then that's the opening of your book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Should I tell people when I'm doing that I'm practicing for my book?
No, that's fine. Because every conversation you have is practicing for your book. Every time you share your story, you're practicing for your book. Just say, okay, I'd like to hear your unbreaking story and see if there's any way I can help you as well. Let's have a conversation. Just make it a conversation instead of having the pressure of it being, doesn't need to be a coaching call.